Welcome back. So, I always like to try my best and be objective. Am I saying sometimes that I might not be or will be? Yeah, I mean, we're all human. We all, do our own things. We all say things, but here it is my responsibility, especially if things are developed like on data. Like I'm always saying that, listen, these are Lewis Hamilton stats. These are real stats. Like, no matter how you feel about the man, you shouldn't be disrespecting somebody who has truly accomplished these things. But then you go and say about another driver, oh, it wasn't the car, it was all the driver. But then Lewis Hamilton is all the car. See, those are things that are being personally biased. Like statistics, that's real. You're not taking that away. So I definitely have viewed some charts. Now, I'm not saying that this is an official chart. Like, definitely would need to be coming out with a more official channel, but I do feel like the chart in itself gives me the personal opinionated right to voice how I feel about it after viewing that, especially if this is very accurate and true. So I will be waiting to see if Formula One or maybe a more reputable journalist type column comes out with this information included in it. But for the time being, I'm going to give my opinion on what I will feel or say with this being the case. So there's been this big situation about Mercedes and other drivers, because I'm really lost on how. I'm not lost on it. I totally understand it. Like Lewis, you're starstruck by Lewis Hamilton, whether you like him or not, and especially if you hate him, you're definitely starstruck on him. And a lot of people are out here making it like Lewis Hamilton is the only person voicing concerns or complaints about porpoising causing him back pain, when Russell himself was one of the first drivers to ever come out and say it. You have Carlos Sainz who has said it. Daniel Ricciardo, who can be seen in a video damn near rubbing and trying to roll his back because he's going through it. Kevin Magnussen, who is legitimately publicized in saying the fact that he probably has some type of nerve contusion or whatever the case may be with his back. Several drivers have voiced and said that these porpoising situations are causing them back pain. Now, with that also being the case, it would seem that Mercedes has a good bit of porpoising problem. Like, we've seen it in the videos. The car is undergoing a large amount of porpoising, period. All right. But it's not the only team. Ferrari is another team. McLaren, Aston, all these teams are having this situation. Some teams less than others. Some teams able to have porpoising yet still be competitive within perspective, within retrospect, right? Like, because honestly, it's not saying that the cars are the best, but within the group, compared to your competitors, your fellow competitors, you're still competitive within this environment that everybody is dealing with this new platform. So I'm going to show you a chart. All right, here we go. Here's a chart of team porpoising amplitude. All right. As you see up top, clearly separated from majority of the rest of the grid is Mercedes. All right. And you can see right there to the color code key down there to the right between, what is that going to be? We'll call that 27 and 37 laps. You'll see that key down there giving you a color code to let you know which teams are which. Some teams are a little bit different to separate, but that is Williams that is mixed in that pack, and that is Mercedes that is a little bit higher up separated there. Why? Because Mercedes is having the most porpoising, and we know that by the visual eye check. But what this also does is tells me a few things, okay? What this also does tell me is you have a group of cars, pretty much when we got, we might as well say 19 other, well, we can't say that because they don't have the line chart due to different cars and drivers. They have it by teams, all right? So we have 9 other teams that from lap 0 to the about lap, we'll call that 45, because we see right there McLaren and Haas fall down considerably, and that could be tire degradation or it could be fuel capacity. Either way it goes, there's a reason why they drop down. But as we see, the bulk of the other 7 teams stay pretty much aligned. So this is what that does tell me. It's what indicates to me. I'm not saying that this is factual. It indicates to me that majority of the rest of the field are closer as in dealing with porpoising to its magnitude than Mercedes. All right. Whatever that degree of porpoising that 9 other teams are dealing with, their degree of porpoising is a lot more similar than Mercedes is. Although we've seen Ferrari have a bit more excessive porpoising than Red Bull, but for the chart, they're pretty much there. Comes to Mercedes, they're well above the rest of the grid with dealing with porpoising. So it would only be objective and fair to say that there is something that can be done with the car. Not to say that there's not something that the FIA do not need to pay attention to, because if they're looking at nose rings, which they can't point any time in history where no nose ring or anything else has caused a catastrophic incident, then it's kind of like, what are we doing? If they're ignoring drivers when they went to the Miami GP and they voiced concerns about barriers and all this other stuff, what are we doing? But it is to say this. A lot of people are saying Mercedes just should raise their ride height. Maybe they should. Maybe they should, right? But where does that put them? Well, that is what it is. Okay. At the end of the day, Mercedes is going to have to make a decision if the FIA are not stepping in to make any decisions, whether it be just Mercedes or whether it be a combined amount of other teams or drivers voicing this concern that they think the FIA should maybe put a standard ride height in for all cars across the grid. Because even if they did that, all cars across the grid, is the competitive level really going to change? I would think not. Ferrari's still going to be where they are. Red Bull's still going to be where they are. Mercedes is still going to be where they are. Only difference is porpoising will be limited. But is that the actual right thing to do if I show you a chart and you see a good amount of these teams are clustered together as far as what they're dealing with? Now, you can see in there that Aston Martin kind of peaks up there. And then if you really look close, I think the Red Bull team, Red Bull, Ferrari and Alpine on a consistent level kind of ride it out. All right. So even Red Bull's mixed in there as well. They're one of the teams doing better. You can see Haas kind of peaked up around there, between 35 and 38 or so. But Ferrari, Red Bull as 2 power unit competitive teams, definitely there. So I'm not going to say that the FIA should directly right now step in and mandate a height level change. Although, I don't think it'll change much across the competitive aspect. I think the cars will still be where they are. Mercedes, now I'm going to tell you what this also shows me though. It also shows me that Mercedes being so different is a correlation to their side pod design being so effective. We all know that porpoising is caused by the amount of downforce that is being applied to the car. It reaches a stall rate and then it loses that downforce, popping itself back up and then going through this cycle over and over again. Where it's clearly evident that Mercedes is creating a nice amount of downforce with this new design. They got to find a way to direct this airflow along with maybe suspension adjustments to put this car in its sweet spot. If they do put that car in its sweet spot with the amount of porpoising that we see, where they can just really benefit from the downforce that this car may be capable of producing, then Mercedes is a highly competitive team again. Which brings me to my next point. I think that, and listen, people, do not let delusional ass fans get inside your head or say dumb things where they're not backing it up with anything but just biased opinions. All right. People are going to do that. We have all this, but this is a really objective point that are an opinion that I'm about to tell you. It is highly likely that Mercedes will not be competitive as you may want them to be. In hindsight, they are still a top 5 team, right? It's top 5 team, but I know everybody wants to see, retribution for Lewis Hamilton getting robbed, because he did get robbed, without a doubt. He got robbed for that championship, without a doubt. Don't let anybody tell you different. It's not different. He legitimately got robbed. They did wrong. They're not going to go back and undo the wrong, and that championship is never coming back, and that is a horrible thing, more so for Lewis than any of us, because none of us, even the assholes who say what they want to say, have any stake in these teams, participate on a weekly basis with these teams, drive for these teams. We're all viewers, our fans, our people who really love the sport that are just weighing in on it. All right. But 2023 might be more like Mercedes coming back to their normal form of highly dominant and competitive, because their design is so different that if they unlock it and get everything correct, teams are going to have a lot to deal with when it comes to Mercedes. But that is another flip side of that coin. What if they don't get it right and they have to go back to some variation of their A-spec, in which they tested at Barcelona, I believe that was, right? That's a possibility too. Although Mercedes is not about going backwards, and I think they'll go forwards in a different direction versus going backwards to A-spec. They'll take this design next season and further it a bit more and probably dial it in then. But their design is so different that it might take a season and an off season of real wind tunnel and a bunch of other, tests that they can do to develop things for this car where it might work. That's just the real. That's just really what it is. So this chart can tell you a multitude of different things. Although, like I said, not something that maybe you could take to the bank, just a visual to show you maybe where the teams differ with what they are dealing with as far as porpoising is concerned. And that is a pretty marginal difference between Mercedes and the rest of the teams, which could also mean that if Mercedes does get it right, that same difference that you see here will be the difference that you see in race wins in the following season. Not giving up on this season. They're not giving up. There's nothing for you to give up on. Like they're not giving up. You don't have to stop believing in Mercedes. Mercedes has always been proven that they're a team of innovation, leadership. They're going to be very committed. They're going to be determined to make sure that they get things right and try to be that leading edge team. That's just the case. But we also have to understand that you get certain math problems that you're just not going to run off and solve like you do every other math problem. And this is a very complicated math problem. All right. That's what I have to say. Oh, other than that, here is the new bottle for the next podium. Shall Russell or Hamilton get it? And I told you all I was going to get it, and I'll give you a little peep of this thing here. But yeah, there you go. There you go. I'm talking about some king shit. So yeah, that's the next bottle. So keep an eye out for that. We will be popping bottles when that time comes. If they get another podium, I mean, this shit could get expensive. This bottle wasn't exactly cheap, at least to me, but it is what it is. So you all be safe. Just build it. Peace. Thanks for tuning in and watching another video here at Wolfpack Performance. Check out some of my other content on Formula One issues, our topics, and our DIY products on how to customize your vehicle. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. See you soon.